let's get underway. G'day everybody, and welcome to the Board Game Gateway podcast. I'm sitting here this evening with the theme team, and I'm going to go around and introduce everyone. We've got Doyle, we've got Murdoch, we've got the Jewelry Man.
Face,
that's the other one.
Face over there.
Face of the Jewelry Man.
Oh, God.
I couldn't help myself at the start. With a bit of a throwback to the IT crowd, which is a nerd's delight. I'm your host this evening, Matt, and I'm sitting here with Anthony.
Hello. My name's actually Neva, but that's okay.
Sorry. I'm also sitting here with Neva.
Hello, that's me as well.
Ralph.
Hey, everyone.
And the Hello Man himself.
Well,
he just took it.
He's already stolen my hello.
He took it twice.
You're the one who introduced me first. You could have introduced Blake.
It doesn't matter when we introduced. When was that ever decided upon?
I don't know.
A nice height.
It's in the bylaws.
Ooh, a nice high. That's a very gentlemanly high.
Oh, that's nice.
Thank you very much, Blake.
I hate it.
Thanks. I hate it.
But welcome to our podcast this week. We'll get to our theme in a minute of the evening, but we're going to go around this evening and just have a bit of a chat about the games we've played over the past 7 days. A couple of us have played a fair few by the looks of things. We'll start actually this evening with Ralph, I think. Where have you been travelling this week in your board game life?
Yeah, sure thing. So, big on Kickstarter at the moment is a board game called Slay the Spire. And I think it was day 3 of the Kickstarter campaign. They released the tabletop simulator mod for it, and I've dived in deep. You went in hard. Yes, I went hard. So I'm a massive fan of the video game adaptation of it, as a few of us are, and a lot of board gamers are actually. So, don't mean to brag, I'm pretty decent at it.
It's been a night for bragging for you.
No, well, for anyone that plays Slay the Spire, I think I haven't beaten Ascension 20, but I'm on Ascension 20 with 2 of the characters. But yeah, so the board game is pretty much the video game, but in board game form. They scaled everything down. All the relics are still there. They just behave a little bit differently, and I'm absolutely loving it.
For those of you who have not played Slay the Spire, it is, even on any sort of format, it is a roguelite deck building game experience where you start with a character, with a deck, you then go into essentially the spire and you slay your way through it, but you get to choose the path that you take. So do you take campfires to rest? Do you go and fight epic monsters to get better gear? Do you go and
it's like a dungeon crawler, yeah?
Yeah, kind of, but it's basically you die, you have to go right back to the beginning of the spire and start again from the base. So the roguelite genre of PC games is basically one death sort of games, and this basically takes that and says and has it in spades. Ralph introduced it to me last night on Tabletop Simulator, and that was exactly my feeling. This is the computer game in board game format, which actually is not a bad thing, but didn't make me actually want to go and kickstart it. Didn't want me to go back it. I was like, I just think I'd rather go and play the computer game, to be honest. But not saying that I hated the...
Has the game arrived?
No, it's only still in its backing phase at the moment.
Will the game be any different to the ported version? Like, or will it be the same as on Board Game Gateway?
It'll be the exact on Tabletop Simulator. It'll be the exact same game as on Tabletop Simulator. They may have a few more add-ons and stuff and stretch goals that they may get to, but in general, the core gameplay is not going to change a slicker.
How old is the video game?
It came out in 2017, I believe. I started playing it about 2019, and it's a game that I very rarely put down. I always seem to gravitate back to it because it's so addicting. Like when you defeat a bad guy in it, you get 3 cards and you pick one to put in your deck, and you upgrade cards, and no 2 decks are the same, so you always feel really powerful.
Lots of replayability
towards the end of the game.
Awesome.
But I know Blake's a big fan of it too,
and that's what's so attractive about these roguelite sort of one life style games. You know, they're just so easy to pick up, put down. You know, you pick it up, go, I'll go for 1 round, you know, and then, you know, it's just got that 10 more minute feel to it of, you know, your childhood. It's just so easy to jump in and out of the game, and I think that's the big draw to these style of games.
To start off, like I'm assuming, as it starts, you know, at the beginning of the gameplay, is it a pretty, you know, first couple of monsters are pretty easy.
Yeah, it's pretty
scales
crazy.
up.
Yeah, scales up very nicely.
Very quickly.
I get the same feeling for that when I overplay, like, like those tower defense games and stuff. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
Two guys walk in. Yeah, I could do this, and half an hour later, you're like, oh god, I'm gonna kill everything.
I will say that the Kickstarter does suffer from one downside. She's expensive.
Oh,
She's expensive.
Oh, well, let's go back to the man who's actually spenced.
Yeah,
No,
Kickstarter's a greedy bitch. What can I say?
Let's go to the man who backed it and then
I was gonna say,
pulled
many?
out.
Oh, you pulled
Not
out.
me. He's sitting to my left,
Oh,
and he's more of a fan of Slay the Spire than I am.
Yeah, I could not justify it. I'm sorry. It's I love the game. I love it, but I could not justify. I got all the way to where the group was saying, all right, time to fess up the money. And I originally looked at the page and I was looking at it in USD. I didn't realize at the time. I thought $100. That looks okay.
Yeah.
And
Oh
you
wait,
have,
no,
like,
that's about
over
160 AUD.
Yeah.
Actually,
and then shipping.
Yeah, so you do get a lot. It's all cards, so it is a lot of
I was
cards.
gonna say, that's a
in
pretty
there.
expensive game for a card game.
Because the cards, like the way you upgrade cards is you take it out of a sleeve and you flip it around.
Yeah.
So the cards are very durable, and so are the sleeves. They put really good sleeves into it. I do feel like the Kickstarter campaign is extremely lackluster. I'm pretty disappointed by the campaign itself. The product is amazing, but the actual campaign isn't great. So I'm hoping they really announce some more stretch goals that are amazing. Like we joked around in our group chat. I want a literal spire that sort of rotates your mini up the spire as you go. Like they could do some fun little quirky novelty things, but end of the day, they're just doing foil cards at the moment, which are in addition to the cards that are already in the game. And I probably wouldn't even open it.
Well, and that's the thing, which is that at $150, $60 Australian, that's not including shipping. You're nearly looking at the price of a Twilight Imperium off the shelf. It's like, it's so much money. Whereas like the game as well, and this is the other thing for me, because it doesn't offer anything new, I'm like, I might as well save my $160 and go play the PC or just play the Tabletop Simulator mod, which is official. They actually, and they are going to be supporting that. And then once the community gets their hands on it, they'll also do that.
I will say the actual video game is only solo, but the board game is co-op.
Yeah.
And I did play 2 games co-op, one with me and one with my friend Reese, and it's a lot of fun. You know, you beat your bad guy, or even if you haven't yet, you're like, oh, that guy's going to hit all of us. We should focus on him. So there's that strategy and tactics behind it now, which is really cool what they did.
So do you think, and I'm just to stray a little bit off topic here, but on the topic of Kickstarters, like, is this an outlier at the moment? Because I mean, I've done my own share of Kickstarters. I know we've all dabbled in the dark arts there, but is it because at the moment, like, is the price just this one game, or are all games currently through the roof, especially through Kickstarter, because of all the shipping costs and delays and production costs?
Yeah, they certainly feel like there's been maybe a 10 to 15% bump in Kickstarter prices. Even that's not even including the price of shipping. Shipping used to be around about the $20 mark for us in Australia,
$46
and now it's like anywhere from $30 to $40. Yeah. So that's much more than a 10 to 15% bump. But
I just received the Kickstarter today. Actually, I got Wayfarers of the West Sea in the mail, which is a New Zealand game, but I think it was still manufactured in China. However, I've only paid $60 for the game, plus maybe 10 or 15 shipping, because I split it with a friend who also bought a copy. But I just looked up today, retail, that game's going for $90. So I didn't feel like I got the Kickstarter version of it, which just adds some more cards. It wasn't anything too extravagant, but the value was definitely there. So it really depends on the individual Kickstarter.
Well, I know we're going kind of a bit off topic here, but I really want, the example that I have is Arkwright the card game, which I bought on Kickstarter with shipping, ended up becoming about 85 to 90 Australian dollar dues. So I didn't think it was bad because I really liked the concept. I really wanted the game. There were some good reviews around it. I was like, great. But then I've owned the game for now 6 months. Since about February it arrived this year. And at one of our local game centres online, I literally saw it going for $38. So I'm like, had I waited 6 months, could have saved myself over half price on the game. I've only played the game twice in that time. So I'm like, you are paying for the convenience and for priority more so than you are the convenience. Like, you could wait for Slay the Spire to get to Australia. You'd probably be able to buy it in about 6 months. brand new for probably $85 to $90.
The reason that wasn't a consideration of mine is because it's made by a publisher called Contention Games. They've only made one other game, and that is Kickstarter only.
Right.
So I don't believe Slay the Spire will go retail unless there's some retailers that actually fork out the money now to order it.
Yeah.
But I don't expect to see it in a board game shop one day.
Okay.
Right.
Cool. Be an interesting topic to have a think about as well with just on Kickstarter, I suppose, for a future episode. It's been a bit of a boon for the board game community, especially with the quantity of games that are now being produced quickly and shipped across the world. So.
And I know there's some publishers that are quite annoyed with Kickstarter and their fees and how they're involved as well. So there's actually a lot of different Kickstarter-y crowdfunding sites now that are just popping up. So
that's cool.
It's pretty cool to see that demand in our hobby.
So that was Slay the Spire. So we've also had a couple of games from Neba and also Blake joined in on one of them. What was that about, guys?
Yeah, so Blake and I, we did, booted up Board Game Arena because I was listening to another podcast, the Board Game Barrage podcast, and they talked about a game called It's a Wonderful World. And I liked the idea of it and the sound concept of it. So we decided to boot it up on Board Game Arena. Now I've got a couple other games, so Blake, I'm going to let you take this one.
It's not related to the 1940s movie, is it?
No.
Called It's a Wonderful World?
No, it's got nothing to do with that.
It doesn't sound like a game you guys would jump on board with.
Well, first of all, it has colour, so so completely different there. But
sorry,
yeah.
so Blake.
Yeah, so this game was a nice little surprise actually. It's basically this sort of card game. If you've played games like Terraforming Mars and Ark Nova, it's very much in that style. However, more on the lighter side. So imagine a Terraforming Mars where you're putting cards out in front of you, building sort of projects, putting resources that you make into these cards to build projects, which then generate you points. Whereas games like Ark Nova and Terraforming Mars have the centralized board in the middle as well, that you're sort of trying to do things like terraform, increase the temperature of Mars, things like that.
Yep.
It's a Wonderful World cuts that out completely. You're just sort of, which does make it more of a solitaire experience, I would say.
So it's like a set collection sort of thing?
No, it's not a set collection. It is a, what I would call a crunchy economic Euro in Terraforming Mars style. So it starts out
with no board.
With no board. It's basically, you start out with a card draft, you get 7 cards per player, and those cards are projects that require you to basically spend resources to get them. Is there a
central market or something?
No, it's just literally a card draft followed by, you got to do it. Now, the way where this game starts to become really interesting, however, is it only plays over 4 rounds, 4 drafts. But the way that the drafts work and the way that the cards work is there is 5 different resources that we are going to produce. And what happens is you've got to pay for these cards. So if I build a card in round number 1, so let's say the resources are like iron, uranium, copper, war, sort of like 5 different things. Where this really, first and foremost, the cards can either be, you can play them for a resource value to play other projects, which is great, but you can also play projects in front of you without finishing them yet. But you are committing to finishing that project within this game. Where this becomes really cool, which is that this building that I'm committing to build, its production will kick off in the 3rd round of production. So there's 5 rounds of production for each of the separate production types. But if I finish a building in the 1st round of production, it will immediately get its production in the 2nd round, which can then pay for the building in the 3rd round. So you're actually trying to plan, well, if I get this building first, it will trigger.
What I'm hearing you say is that big combo, big points.
Big combo, big point.
Was really in his element.
No, this one's not big combo, big point.
It's a crunchy economic Euro.
this was big crunch, ouch head.
Oh, okay, that's you.
It was. Despite being, on the lighter side, I think it was at the end of the day, admittedly, but we played 2 games. We won 1 each, and he turned around to me and said, let's play one more for a tiebreaker. And immediately 2 minutes into the tiebreaker, we both were
Why are we doing this?
My brain's mush.
It was honestly one of those games where it had the best part about this game is it is a crunchy game. So you're literally sitting there going, oh, when it pays off big because you've realized I can do this and that will happen, which will then mean that happens, and then the production kicks, which means I can do this, and your points just go brrr, as you would like in any kind of Euro game. But yeah, it was a really crunchy one. I want to play a couple more games of it. I almost think Blake nearly went to Advent Games or one of the Gameology or something and nearly pressed the buy button, because you can buy this for like $45, 45 to 50 Australian dollar.
How old's the game?
2017.
Yeah, I feel like it's relatively
new. Yeah. So that was a good one, and I enjoyed it.
The only way I think this game, like I mentioned, falls down is the lack of interaction between the players, like direct interaction. So if that's what you're looking for, the game's not got that in spades. The only sort of interaction you got is the card drafting. So at one point when we were playing with a third player online that we didn't know, I saw that he had a card which he gives him victory points based on the amount of yellow cards that he builds.
Right.
So I saw another yellow card which also increased the amount of points per yellow card. And so I thought, I can't let him have that. So I picked it so that he wouldn't get it.
I feel like this game would be a lot better in person, because then you can very quickly look at what everyone's kind of doing.
Would it also be better with more people rather than just a duo, so you can have those, like that strategic element of looking at everyone else and trying to...
I kind of think I enjoyed it too.
I think I did enjoy it too.
Yeah.
More than three. But I also... But I think in person...
I think that's just because the third person added that extra person I had to worry about while my brain was already mushed. Because the other way that you interact with players is during each of these production phases, because unlike other games like Terraforming Mars, when you get your resources in that game, it's all just one production step, everything comes in. As Nee was saying, you will get your first, say, uranium.
Your coal.
Your coal first, and then your mechanical resources second. And they're each individual steps where you can build using those resources within each step. But when you get those resources, there's a thing called a supremacy bonus. So if you gain the most amount of that resource out of everyone at the table, you gain a bonus token which is worth victory points or can be used in combos in your production.
In your big combo, big points at the end of the game. So
that's the only other way you can really interact with players, is trying to beat other people for this supremacy bonus.
And is the points all tallied just at the end of the game?
No, they're tallied. Well, there is big combos at the end, but there are points that do go through the parts of the game.
We'll have to have a look at that one ourselves.
Yeah, I actually thought that was a lighter game. I didn't expect to hear you guys say, "Oh, it hurt my brain by the end of it," you know. But
it's a very simple to get, understand, and start playing. Who watched a 15-minute video and we're ready to jump straight in without any explanation. It's very easy to pick up. Yeah, but there's a very deep level
potential.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, it sounds really interesting.
Yeah, it looked really interesting. I would be interested. I can't recommend it yet, but I do want to play it a few more times to actually.
No, I've heard people recommending that game actually. So
cool. Well, I hadn't played any games this week until I showed up early this evening, and Neva and I cracked out a game of Turing Machine. Well, I shouldn't say Neva and I did it basically alone, as Neva taught me the game.
That's Anthony, by the way.
Yeah, Anthony.
Shut up! He's only back on track now. Shut up, Ralph.
It's also written down here, so I'm just following the script.
Fair enough.
I'm sure Neva will want to actually talk about it because he's played a couple of games with his family this week. But I really enjoyed it. I actually wish I had showed up an extra hour early and gotten a couple more goes at it, because it's a very unique mechanic that I've never played before, which I'd be very keen to play with multiple people for starters. It's a fine solitaire by itself, a good little puzzle, a little bit of what was that? What's the game with the coloured dots? Mind Meld? I don't know.
Mastermind.
Mastermind, that's the one. It's a bit of a mastermind base to this game, but the actual mechanism to solving the puzzle is really, really unique, where you're putting in these individual punch cards into the computer, per se, to see if the answer for the question you've thrown to the computer is a yay or a nay. So it's a little bit of a...
It's a little
bit of a binary logic puzzle with the computers, yeah. But yeah, I loved it. Nee, I'll throw it to you.
Yeah, so Turing Machine is one of the newest games to come into my collection. I literally got it on the weekend. So it's designed by Fabian Gödel and Johan Levitt, and it is essentially a game of it's a logic deduction game where we're trying to guess for a 3-digit code. But where this game, it has one of the most unique game mechanics I've ever seen. And the way that it works is, Matt, he's mentioned punch cards. So essentially, in the game, you've essentially got these...
It kind of looks like an overlay.
Yeah, it is basically. Yeah. So you basically take 3 punch cards of whatever numbers that you're doing at the moment. You overlay them, and then you have these specific answer tiles that when you put them behind the punch cards, only one specific answer, one box, will be a yes or a no. And this game has apparently over 7 million different combinations of puzzles that you can play. The game box gives you 20 to play with, and then they actually have a website that you can send to, and it basically has a generator that you can go from there.
Cool. And now, daily challenges.
And a whole bunch of stuff. This is a race, so it plays up to 4 players.
So it's competitive, is it?
Yeah, it is.
Well, I played it solitaire.
So I taught Matt the game by just letting him play. I said, I've already completed this puzzle, but I'm going to teach you how to play it using this puzzle, so I can be here just to kind of keep an eye on you. However, you can play it competitive.
Make sure I don't eat the cards.
Yeah. Well, no, I say this. So I'll come back.
Did you wash your hands, Matt?
we will come back to this because I do want to have a chat about this. Why I said that, which was, but the game itself. Sorry, you threw me well off track here.
You're figuring out a code with an overlay.
You're figuring out the code, and then so the way that it works in competitive is that you can, for example, the first puzzle has 4 different computers, quote unquote, that you can ask questions to. You're only allowed to ask 3 per round. So at the end of a round, we put our thumbs in the middle and we go 3, 2, 1, reveal. And if your thumb goes up, that means, yes, I've solved it. But if your thumb goes down, that means, no, I haven't solved it. If everyone puts their thumbs down, we all write a new code and we go again. All right, and we get new punch cards, trying to figure out stuff. Now, you can do up to 3 because that's the tiebreaker. So you're actually trying to do it as quick as possible, but in the least amount of questions possible, trying to figure out the answer. Because if Blake and myself both went, yes, we have it on the same turn, and we both got it correct. However, by doing so, I only took 7 questions, but Blake took 8. I would actually be the winner of the game because I only did 7 questions, right? So you're trying to be as efficient as possible and go that way. Now, the reason why I said, I want to come back to this, why I said I was keeping an eye on you, Matt, which was I actually had a really bad experience with this game with my father, who I tried to teach to this on Sunday afternoon. So this was 3 days ago. Dad, if you're listening to this, there's not a go at you. You were doing pretty well. But no, it's not a go at Dad, but he completely bounced off him. He did not understand at all what he was trying, how this logic was supposed to be work. Because the way that it works is that you get the 3 numbers and then you input them into the computer, but the computer then just basically says yes or no. But the way that it works, the cards can be a bit confusing, and Dad completely bounced off it, right? And he's a smart guy. He's not a guy who I've ever had issues teaching. He understood brass when we first did it, when we were learning from the rule book. So he gets games and he gets the things. But this one, he completely just could not get his head around how he was supposed to do the logic.
Just on that, one of the board game barbecue guys taught me how to play Hadrian's Wall. It's a roll and write game. It's probably the most complex board game I've ever played, to be honest. After a 25-minute teach, I politely said, "Thank you for teaching me. However, I am not going to play this game because it is way too much for me right now." And I just could not get my hands around the mechanic. Later, I ended up buying the game and sort of took time with it and learnt it as well. And it's fantastic. But I've definitely played games and just not understood how I got that result, sort of thing. It's like when someone gives you the answer at maths and it's like, I got it right, but I don't get how I got there.
Well, I will say, in possibly Burns' defense, that, and I just want to, hang on, take this back out again.
So people can look at it. If you want to see what we're
seeing,
the box, go to the YouTube channel, and if you actually type in @BoardGame, @BG Gateway into YouTube now, you'll actually go straight to the channel because they have handles now. So what was the code game we played 2 weeks ago? Break the Code.
Break the code, right? The difference between that and this, I think, is that Break the Code's score sheet is very, very useful to follow. And this one isn't as clear, right? There's a lot going on. Like, it makes sense to me as a gamer, but it wasn't as, honestly, as easy to follow the answers to, right? And I stumbled in that first round I played. I made a couple of mistakes because I was just trying to keep track of everything at one time. Not that it's a hard game to keep track of, But I think that the score sheet itself might be the letdown. If you're trying to read your own writing and focus on this doesn't actually give you as much help as other solving games do in their presentation.
I'll tell you what, I haven't played it yet, but the rulebook's only 4 pages.
Yeah,
like it's
a simple understand, right?
It looks like a simple to understand.
When we teach this to you after we finish our podcast recording tonight, you'll see what I mean. But I will say though that from a podcast point of view and from a review point of view, this is super solitaire. Right, this is literally the epitome of, like, you thought Search for Planet X was a solitaire game. This one takes it one step further. This is literally put my head down into my notes and hope that I've beaten you to the punch. Go. Now that's okay, and people will like that, and you can play it very easily solo. However, you need to know that going in. But I will say though that even just for the way that you get the true or false and the way that they've come up with this mechanic of being able to figure out how the computers work and the punch card system works, just that alone is a novelty enough that if you're into any sort of logic, puzzle, or deduction sort of game, you have to give it a look.
Yeah, I reckon if you're a Sudoku lover, you'd love this game.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially now that I've seen that there's these daily challenges. Like, if you're a Sudoku fanatic, I reckon you'd play the base game and then be like, cool, I'd never put this away because every day I'm coming back to this to solve today's puzzle.
Now, the question I always ask you when it comes to these, because I love my Sudokus, I love these types of logic games, and the question I always ask you, how does it stand up when it comes to other games like Break the Code, Da Vinci? Where do you put this game?
Oh, it's a really tough question because I've only played 3 puzzles myself.
We need to play a couple of the harder ones.
I do think so. So I've only played with the things that give you 4 computers, so 4 different clues that you can potentially guess from, but you can get up to 6 different verifiers called computers. However,
more, isn't it?
Yeah, well, in the app, I put in go to extreme mode, and it's like, okay, well, each verifier has 2 options instead of 1. So the option a verifier is basically saying, is the yellow number less than 4, equal to 4, or greater than 4? I don't know, depending on what number you ask the question, right? But then, so you're working your way around, you do stuff. But the extreme mode has 2 of them. So then I haven't looked at the rules yet, but I don't know if it's either or you've got to figure that out.
Well, I'd imagine
there's one more mode above that.
I'd imagine it has to be either
Nightmare.
Or. Yeah, it has to be either or because the actual punch cards only ever reveal one cell.
Piece of it. So you've got to figure out which one is correct.
It'll either be yes, tick, to one of the answers, or probably no to both of the answers, I would assume.
You would assume, yes. But it could be no to one of them, but you don't know which one.
Yeah, but see that. Well, I don't know. I'd just be spitballing, but I reckon that would be the nightmare mode because how could you then? Yeah, there'd be way too many permutations of that.
It sounds really interesting. I love how it's scalable.
Yes.
Like you can never truly master this game,
Yeah.
so you can always go back to it.
Yeah.
I think there is a new pet peeve of mine in board gaming, though. When you buy a box, I don't want holes in it. There are a lot of holes in this box.
What's wrong with that?
I don't know,
Nothing's falling out the front.
You already have to dust your board game shelf every now and then. Look at
You
this.
dust inside the box now.
That's right.
The game really takes this punch card to a next level, and so basically it has the Turing Machine on the front punch through the actual hole in the box. It is double layer, so it is very stiff, so it does help.
Dust is still going to get trapped in that.
That's
It's
all
on
right.
the
It doesn't
side. You
affect me.
can't even lay it vertically.
It's sacrifice practicability for theme.
You bought 80% of a board game. They didn't even make the lid.
Look, if it brings my shipping down at all, and the weight cost, I mean, we think we need it. But yeah, look, I'm looking forward to playing a few more of this game and giving it a play, even if it's not, to answer your question, Blake, it's not currently my new favorite one. Like Break the Code, when I played that, I immediately went, this is going to be skyrocketing to the top.
Yep.
But this one has a lot of things going for it, like the daily puzzles. Like I can generate my own thing and just crank it out and play some solo play, where I can't do that in Search for Planet X, and I can't do that in Break the Code.
You can play Search for Planet X on your own.
You can play Search for X by yourself, yes, you can.
5 or 6 times.
Yes,
the computer is still really hard.
I still find you are right.
It is good.
I prefer Search for Planet X.
It sounds weird, but I do play with myself on occasion.
Doesn't sound weird at all, Ralph. In fact, I've come to expect that from you, but that's fine.
Yeah.
That's
Most people have.
Let's move along really quickly. So it looks like as well, Ralph and Neba, you played a game called War Chest, I believe.
Yeah, we played that one together.
Right, you played together.
He kicked my ass.
So, who wants to talk about War Chest?
Yeah, I'll hand this one to Neo.
I'll do it. So War Chest is either a 1-on-1 game or a 2-on-2 game. It is basically a war game where you are in control. I'm just going to talk about the 1 versus 1 because we played 1 versus 1. But in 1 versus 1, there are basically you are given 4 units. Each unit can have five of itself, like 5 tokens. One of them will have, so 3 of them will have 5, 1 will have 4.
Yeah, it's variable. It depends on the characters.
And it's a game where you have a bag, and these units are represented by poker chips. You then will have, basically, it's an area control game, battle game, where the objective of the game is to control 6 points in total. You start with 2 points, and there are 5 on the board, and you want to control 4 of those 5 that are out on the board. Or take over your opponent's home bases. Very hard to do, but you can do it if your tactics are correct. So on your turn, though, what you do is you start the game with 2 of each of the units in your bag. You shuffle the bag, you draw 3 out, you basically then can either activate the unit for its face-up value, either putting it on the board, or if you have another one of that unit, by activating that chip, you can then do the unit's ability, whether or not that be move, shoot, special actions, like for example, the marshal whose tactic is to allow another unit to fight. So what you're trying to do is you're doing a bit of bag
so there's
building.
Yeah.
Where you're building up your army, but then you have to try and do a bit of luck by what you're pulling and how you maneuver around the board.
You can control that luck a bit. So with the game, you control 4 units, but there's only 2 of each type of unit in your bag that you're pulling from and doing actions
at the very start. Yeah.
So one of the actions you can do is you discard a coin face down, and then you can recruit one of your units that are out of play. So say I have an archer, and I really want to do more actions with an archer, but I can only do that action if I pulled an archer from the bag. So I might want to put all of my archers in and not build anything else, so that way I can still do use my archer a lot more. And when you discard a token, you can do a basic attack or as Nee said, your special action sort of thing. And you're just trying to control the points. So this game is pretty much chess-like, because it is just... I was
going to say.
Yeah, just like you go in there, you're attacking each other. When you kill a poker chip, it gets out of the game discarded. So you're effectively making that particular character less likely to come out. Like the game we played, Nee, there was a tough moment where I was like, okay, I have a 50-50 call of which type of character I kill of Nee's. But if he has that particular poker chip out, he's going to potentially win the game or kill my character. And I just did some quick math as to all the poker chips I could see out, and I luckily guessed correct. Like, it was a very close call.
Yeah, it was a really good game. All the armies, so the 4 cards that I have are completely different to the 4 that Ralph has. Yeah. So you need to make sure that you're taking into account what their units can do, how you move. The first game was he just destroyed me. He killed a lot of my units, and I didn't do really well. Then the second game was a lot more tense. He actually took 3 of the 4 points before I took anything, but my goal was to let him take a lot, and I had the archer and a couple of units that allowed me to attack from afar. Yeah. So my goal was to basically sit back, shoot, wear him down, and then go in and attack.
Yeah, he scared me pretty much.
And the attack that he talked about just before, where he killed this specific unit, which is basically, had he not killed that unit, when he killed it, the next action was my guy was going to kill the dude that killed me, plus I was going to be able to attack another person and clear off that point, and then I would have been able to build my unit up, because I had a 6 of 5 and steamroll in. Now, because he guessed right, and I knew I was playing a risky game, he won. And it did make me go, I really wanted to play it again, but we also then decided to play Slay the Spire. But I really did enjoy this.
Just with War Chest, so we just played, we just got 4 cards, make the best with it. But there's actually card drafting in it. So there's, I believe, 16 or 18 characters in the base game. There are 2 expansions for this, which add more abilities to units and actual control points as well. But with the card drafting, it's awesome because, I don't want that card. You want to build what you can, but it's like, I don't want my opponent to have that card.
Now I really want to go back and play it, Ralph. You should have told me, but I would have been down for that.
So what's really cool is probably like 5-6 years ago, there was some American guy, I believe. He played this a lot with a friend, but then that friend went overseas for like 5 years. So he actually coded a website. It's just a basic HTML site. Anyone can make a free account and play this game against real people. You just like spin up your own lobby and you just play it through a browser.
Yeah.
It actually works extremely well. I've played a lot of it. I'm no good at this game, but it's a lot of fun.
He says as he destroyed me 2-0, but
You never played before.
that is true. That is true. But yeah, I highly recommend. This one is a very, I think, very good at 2 players.
Yeah.
There's no real mastery. Like there is a kind of mastery there, but it's more so that every game is different because what you have versus what your opponent has can change. With the drafting, I think that would add another element that I would love, Ralph, to be able to go, oh, I really want the archer, but I do not want him to have the lancer.
That's right.
Whatever. Yeah, whatever.
The berserker that you played is pretty overpowered. Like there's a lot of good characters.
I totally didn't use him correct, but that's okay.
The lancer's fun. You could basically have a trident, just beeline straight and just kill someone.
Yeah.
What's also cool about this, it is 2-on-2. It can be a 4-player game where each player controls 3 characters and the map's a bit wider to accommodate and you need to control more points. And I haven't played it yet, but when you play it physically as well in real life, they're heavy weighted poker chips and it's so satisfying to move them and bolster them. So if you bolster a guy, it takes 2 hits to kill it, but you're less likely to have actions to perform with it, sort of thing as well. So there's a lot of options. It plays really quickly after your first round as well.
They look like nice hefty weighted pieces as well.
Yeah,
looked like it was a nice game under the finger.
It's a cheap game too. You think it's expensive, but it's not.
Okay, cool, awesome.
It's about time we released Chess 2.
Yeah, it's great.
Well, there's Chess 3D.
So that was War Chest.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think we need to have a bit of a chat about our game of the week.
Definitely.
Which this week is Carcassonne or Carcassonne, depending on where you're from. But being German, I don't think it would be Carcassonne. This game is 22 years old, according to
2001.
The BGG. That was when it won the knee.
Spiel des Jahres.
Thank you, knee.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That sends a shiver down everyone's spine every time knee says it.
And mine.
It won it in 2001, but it was published in 2000.
Oh, so Carcassonne is a city in France.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Did not know that.
So is it German? They all look like German name.
It's
Klaus-Jürgen Ried. It does not sound like a French name.
It was designed by a German, but he must have
who
had
was invading France.
Yes, exactly right. He wanted to march his way in medieval times into the French castles of yore.
So on the BGG, just say we're just shaping the medieval landscape of France, claiming cities, monasteries, and farms. It's a great little game to play. It's been in. Oh, there you go. That's why the cities look the way they do. We're just being shown a photo of
Carcassonne, France.
Carcassonne in France. Well, I wonder. I'm gonna have to find out exactly how to pronounce that because my partner's mother is. Well, she's not French, but her dad is
Dutch.
French. Yeah, that's right. She's got Albanian heritage, so surely she'll know how to pronounce things. Anyway, I'm getting a bit off the beaten path here. Speaking of beaten paths, in this game of Carcassonne, we're sitting around playing with. Well, I suppose it's a bit of a Tetris game almost in a certain way. Tile laying, yeah. Similar to King Domino in some aspects. Where we're drawing cards and placing them on the table in a group pattern. We're all playing together in the one field and expanding that field as we go and trying to claim points for roads, fields, and completed castles or cities as the game progresses. And it's every time I play this, we've played a couple of times with the boys at work. It's quite popular because it's an easy one to learn and you don't really have to be that in-depth with the board games to actually firstly play it. I think it does take a little bit of nous to play it well, I suppose, and know exactly when to place your meeples, when to collect your meeples, when to finish your towns and roads. But as I said, for new players, and that's why we do play it at work, where there's a lot of people who just want the social interaction but don't really give a damn about board games, it's a fantastic one. And I suppose that's also why it's the winner of the
Spiel des Jahres
in 2001.
We need a button, just
that's right. We need a soundboard. But yeah, I enjoyed playing it with you, gentlemen, this evening. Let's throw it through the table.
Yeah, I will say this is actually one of the oldest games in my collection. This is probably one of the ones that actually started my collection. I remember when I bought it specifically. I remember buying it on a holiday when I was down at a little town.
Yeah, you had a mullet back then, didn't you?
Yeah, pretty much. In Ort 4. The mullets were flowing, the locks were golden. No, I bought it when I was down on holiday in a little town in southwest of New South Wales, New South Wales called Berry, and we bought it from a game store that was down there on holiday.
So I was on holidaying in France in a town called Carcassonne. No, I was in Berry.
But I remember buying it because I remember walking into this store.
I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. I think it's Berry.
Berry.
But we did that because we were on holidays, and I saw it, and I'm like, I really want to play. I know what this game is, and it was at the time, I think it was around 2008, so it's been in my collection for nearly 14 to 15 years now. It is one of the 3 games considered to be the golden triangle, the golden gateway games, which are Ticket to Ride, Carcassonne, and Pandemic, I believe are the 3. But Carcassonne, as you said, Matt, is just literally is a very simple tile laying game. It is pick a tile, play a meeple. That's it. That's literally the whole game. And it sounds so simple because it is, but it does actually provide a lot of interesting choices because you are literally playing roads and towns and villages, but you can really stuff up other players from trying to complete those roads, towns, and villages, and the cloisters, the monk, the church areas. But I really like it. To be honest, I have not played Carcassonne since in person for a good probably 8 years. It's been a long time since I've played this game, and
I don't think it's come out at NeighbourCon any time recently, that's for sure.
No, but I think it will be in the next one, given how I remember this now. But yeah, Ralph, what did you think going back and playing one of the classics?
Before I get to what I thought, have we talked about what the game is and how to play it yet?
Well, I haven't. Matt didn't. Well, look, would you like?
If some people have never heard of this game, you're saying this is one of the gateway games. I only played this last year.
Really?
First time.
Wow.
So
okay.
I've never heard of it. Well, I've heard of it, but it's like I've heard.
We should point out to our audiences that the gateway games, the Golden Triangle, you don't have to play them, right? There's no law saying if you haven't played one of these games, more games for you.
Yeah. Okay. So if I haven't played Titanfall 1, I can play Titanfall 2.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
that's what you're telling me.
That's right.
All right.
Do you want to go ahead and explain how this game works?
Sure.
I'm happy to do it as well if you want me to. I'll do it.
You can help me do it. All right. So how do you pronounce it first?
Carcassonne.
And what award did it win?
It won the Spiel des Jahres.
Ooh.
I'm sure we just went through this, right?
Yeah, well, that was the introduction to
the
game.
Now I have to put a damn counter into the video.
I think so. Yes, he said the thing.
He said it.
So this is essentially, there's a lot of tiles in this game.
84 tiles, to be exact.
We counted them all.
No, I didn't. I just read the back of the box.
I was going to say, you're missing a piece there. You've only got 83. But yeah, the other side of the tiles, it's just like greenery, which is essentially grass, but we call it farm in this game. There's roads that might be in the middle of the farms, and the other thing are cities as well. And the other thing is, what's the clam one called?
The cloister.
Cloister.
Cloister. It's a weird name for a
cloister.
thing. What is a cloister again, Matt? You did tell me before.
It's basically a church or a monastery. But the cloister is the French word for monastery, I think. Actually.
Monastery.
Yeah.
We have that one French listener. It's just like it's not. It's chowder.
I can't actually say
it right.
I don't really want to say his name on the podcast. He knows who he is, but because if you know who he is on his Discord,
we do love you. Love you.
Because I can't say his name because the Australian of what his name is completely rude. So I'm gonna just spell it for you. Ready? Kuntz.
Oh, it's an endearing thing when we say it.
It is, but
though.
he's not Australian. He's French. So when he joined, I'm like, "You're taking the piss,
Yeah,
right? Surely not." He's like, "No." Like,
but it's an OO sound.
Exactly.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's Kuntz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where did we meet this guy at the monastery down at Betty?
Oh God. Well done.
Well done.
Well done.
Essentially, you have tiles, so you draw one tile and you can add it to the pre-existing map in the middle of the table. So if you have a road, it has to join a previous road. If you're building a town, like, you put it down, and essentially you get points for doing everything in this game. So when you complete a town, you get to put your little meeple on it, and you're going to get a couple of points here and there. If you complete a road, it has like 2 ends, you're going to get points if your meeple's on that road. So when you place the tile, you get to put a meeple somewhere on the tile that you just laid if you want. In the game I played, I put all my meeples out pretty early, so I spent half the game not having many meeples, which was frustrating, but I somehow got very lucky at the end. So
you completed the mega town that just
with
had
the very last
piece, the very last tile.
Yeah, that was nuts. But like I said, I've only played this game twice. So once tonight and once a couple of years ago. One of my friends, he has this super collection edition which has all the expansions in it, and I felt like I played the game a third time because I helped set up where we removed all the expansion content out of it to just find the base game pieces, and then we could actually play just the base game, because I've never played this before and there's a lot of added content to it. But literally it's like half a meter long, this box that he has. It's you really need. They love.
That's a lot of
Carcassonne.
posters.
I think it's like the 20th anniversary edition box.
Yeah,
It's really,
maybe. But they love Carcassonne in that family. They play it with their 2 kids, and they use it. So.
Does it have an age on the box? I don't think it does. Does
No, I don't know. I will say that my 5-year-old daughter, she saw me getting this ready tonight before you guys got here, and she was like, "What's that, Dad?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's just a game that we think." She goes, "Can I play?" And I went, "Sure."
Yeah,
and I didn't actually play the game with her, but she just really enjoyed lining up the tiles, playing.
Yeah.
It's pretty relaxing. It's chill.
And she was really enjoying it. And I said, "Look, one day I'll teach it to you, but at the moment she won't really understand the scoring." But she just loved playing with the tiles.
And you can just show her like the pieces and say that can connect to that road. And,
Exactly
you know,
right. But she got it very quickly. Blake, you haven't played this game before, have you? But
just once on the app on Steam, but that was solo against a computer, and I believe I lost. So
then you had three human opponents tonight. How'd you find your second play of the game now?
Definitely much better. Actually sitting down, because I only opened it very quickly the last time. I didn't really read the rules. I just sort of dove in, and the result was inevitable. Exactly. I
the worst,
put it down and went, "This game's stupid. Never pick this up again." No, but definitely a much more broader approach this time. That was before I think that was even before I started playing board games with you guys. So it was quite a while ago now, but much a different approach to this game. It's very simple, very easy to learn, as we've been saying. It's it's a nice little game. It's easy to play very quickly, but so frustrating at the same time.
It does feel like
it was frustrating, wasn't it?
I feel like every single other person kept picking up the piece I needed.
So one of the frustrating rules that I don't really like in the game is the fact that you literally have to pick a tile and play that tile. One of the rules which I found way back when was someone suggested, well, what we do is we take 3 tiles each, and then you pull 1 tile, so you have 4 in your hand, and you play 1. And eventually you'll play at the end of the game, you'll end up playing your whole hand. But because you have 3 or 4 tiles in your hand, you have the ability to kind of pre-plan some of your moves. Now, other players may be holding on to that exact piece that you want, but it does give you a little bit more agency, because you actually now have the ability to pre-plan some stuff, whereas when you're playing this game, it's just literally, I can't do anything in my turns. I've just got to hope that when I pull the tile, when it's not my turn, I just got to hope that when it is my turn, I pull the right one. But then it is also, you're trying to make the best of the decisions that you have.
See, I could imagine that system where you've got 3 in your hand would be fun to play, but I didn't mind playing the pull it and you have to play it, right?
Yeah.
There is an element
some
of
interesting decisions.
that's right.
Making the best of it.
And especially when you get deeper into the game and there's less places where you can play the card you've drawn, right? You have to make a choice that you don't want to make, and it's going to help someone else.
Yeah.
That hurts.
Because I think that created some interesting dynamics, because there were some points where I'd pick up a piece and it was not beneficial for me at all, but Ralph would say, "Look, if you help me out here, maybe my next tile helps you out."
Yeah, that was me just being a bit of a smart ass in the board game. Like I was just me doing a bit of banter.
That doesn't sound like you at all, Ralph.
I rightly didn't trust you.
I would have honestly, I would have helped you because I want to point to. I would have helped you, but
no, like that variation, I feel like at that point it almost becomes very similar to King Domino, where you've got the multiple tiles to pick from. Whereas that one, sort of a communal draft, but you've got a spread that you can pick from. You're trying to pick what's good for you. Whereas that game, it's you're working on your own town. This is a communal one. Yeah, but that system becomes sort of similar where you've got that choice.
So, Nee said something during our playthrough of this where he said Carcassonne coined the word meeple.
I thought it did, or it popularized it, I believe.
So, it actually did. And there's a Wikipedia article about it. which is weird to see that like as a board game thing because it actually just references a group playing this in the year 2000. And it says at some point a lady called Allison, she started My People as Meeple, and everyone laughed in the group. And then they took that away with them, and they ended up actually calling them Meeples in the game.
And there you go.
I thought changed the course of board game history. Right
I thought I was right. You guys were all like, "Nah, that doesn't sound right." I'm like, "No, I'm fairly certain Meeple came out of."
I didn't doubt you.
Ralph did.
I did.
Ralph did.
And you know what? I think a lot of people did because someone wrote this Wikipedia article about it. So that's really interesting.
Look, I will say, the variation which I did say, I do agree. Right, it just takes it takes the game for that extra step up. But I do believe that if just playing it at its base core, it really does just turn it into it's a very simple game. Anyone can understand. Pick up a tile, place it, and you go. And that's why, even though I hadn't played it in like 8 years, I still was never going to get rid of it. I'm like, no, this is staying in my collection because I know what this game brings to the table. And I actually, to be honest, I'm glad I played it again because I actually forgot how beautiful the game is. It actually looks really nice, very colourful. I will start to I think I need to start veering us into our discussion topic here, Matt, because what I want to talk about is the fact that, though, if you look at the box art, this is the 2008 edition, so it's the Ventura games back whenever I bought it.
Rio games.
Yeah, sorry, the Rio Grande games, right? If you look at this box, the reason why we wanted to talk about theme in board games for our discussion topic tonight is literally because what does this box art say about the game, right? Oh, we're gonna a French town, a castle, and there's a knight and a thiefy looking guy. It's like I want us to bring
When you
us
actually
into
know
that.
the game that's inside it,
Yeah.
does the box art match?
Well, that's the thing, and this is why I want to bring this up because I want to get into that discussion theme. So I guess why don't you bring us into that so we can talk about this because I think we're done talking about the actual game itself, but I really
I
want
think we all recommend Carcassonne.
Oh, absolutely,
For sure.
100%.
I think, we all love it. It's a great introductory game. You said your daughter was interested in it. Definitely show her. It's very pretty on the table.
I will, yeah.
Yeah, it's a winner.
I even just took some 3D printed things to print some grids so to help her keep them in order and not have them go exploding across the table, which I think
It's still going to happen.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, I know. We'll see how that goes.
But yeah, our conversation for the week is themes of games. So the boys were talking before we started tonight about how they have their fitness regime. So we'll launch in with some theme cuisine style games, I suppose. Everything rhymes with theme when you really think about it. Really, there's a lot of words.
You've got to keep them keen, mate.
You do. Keep them theme.
I do want to bring up that this actually we came across this topic a couple of weeks ago when you played Isle of Cats, and it sparked my thought because you finished playing Isle of Cats, going, I never would have bought that game.
No,
I never.
I've seen it on shelves in every store I've gone to, and I haven't even turned it over to look at the back of it. I've gone, I do not want to play a game called Isle of Cats. I mean, admittedly, I'm not a cat person, so there's that. But there was nothing eye-catching about the game other than there's a big white box that went, I've got to. I just even flip it over, right? And so at the end of that game, I went, I enjoyed the game. I actually got the theme of it. It was fine, but that twigged. What about themes for games, right? How do they interact with you when you're choosing a game? How do they interact when you're actually playing the game as well? Do they live up to their own hype? So there's a couple of discussion points we wanted to go through, but let's stick with Carcassonne at the moment as it's firstly on the table, and where we see firstly the box itself, right? Before we even look at the game inside, but the box itself, is this something that you'd pick up off the shelf based on the theme of the game, or even just on the artwork of that game?
I'd say with the artwork, it reminds me of being in primary school in the library.
Yes!
I've been staring at the box for 5 minutes now.
It just needs like an orange sticker in the corner or something.
Yes, that's right.
So you know that it goes on
book
that
of the
shelf.
week or something.
I will say before I bought the game.
Oh, that's just spun me for a six.
The actual color of the box is that royal blue with the yellow contrast on it, right? And every time that I saw it before I bought it, just for the color of the blue, I was like, "Ooh, what's this?" Because it kind of stood out because it was this very like royal blue. And every time I looked at it, I go, okay, that's pretty good. And I'd flip it over and look and go, okay, there's some tiles there. And before I understood what Spiel des Jahres actually stood for, or what it was, before I understood what that actually was, I would go, oh, there's some sort of symbol on there. So I didn't really know what I was looking at or what this game was. And it wasn't until I discovered Shut Up and Sit Down and other reviewers, and they were talking about this game, that I went, oh, I get what this game is and why I think I would like it now. But there was nothing about the game that made me want to buy it immediately. And I think that's a game that a lot of games actually have. I don't think this is a...
Oh, it's not unique for this game, that's for sure.
No.
I think there's a lot of trepidation about a lot of games simply because the boxes are dull. And because you're just not excited by what's going on at all.
Yep.
And they may be brilliant. I mean, most of the dullest looking boxes are actually the most exciting ones. We could talk about Teutonica if you really, really want, right?
I wasn't going to bring it up.
Yeah, I know you weren't, but someone had to. which is a bone of contention around this table. But the box itself has some interesting artwork, but it doesn't jump out at you as grab me and play me kind of games.
No, definitely.
I realised I made a faux pas. The third Golden Gateway game is not Pandemic, it's Dominion. And Dominion has one of the most blandest boxes ever. And it was released again in that...
Actually, you could put Dominion next to Carcassonne, and they look like they've been probably designed by the same person.
I think it's that era of board gaming. I can't remember exactly when Dominion came out, but I think it was the early 2000s.
Yeah, I was after Carcassonne. It was in I believe it was 2006, 2000, around that time.
So it's kind of that era. Like when you look at a movie poster from the 80s, like National Lampoon's Vacation or something, it's got that cartoony type feel to the poster. That doesn't happen nowadays.
I will say also, this was back in the day. I say back in the day of board game. This was only about 20 years ago. But most of these board games did come out of the European scene, the German, the French. There was a that's why the Essen Eschenspiel, which is the
Spiel des Jahres.
Yes, where it comes from. That's where they all came from. So there is a lot of influence going from, and a lot of them. There wasn't a lot of competition, especially in the mid 2000s, for your eye.
Attention,
there was before Kickstarter, before really we had all of these logistic chains sorted out and figured out, and now.
But even places to purchase the games, right? Like there were very specific places you went for actual board games that weren't Monopoly and Headache and Panic and those standard kid games you see in Kmart, right? Like you had to go into a Warhammer place to find the board games. There wasn't many places you could go.
But now
right?
Carcassonne I've seen in Kmart, Target or something, one of them.
Yeah, and I think that was also, and so that's why when you start going back, even before Kickstarter, a lot of those Hearts of Teutonicas, the Dominions, those sort of games, they're all art styles which are very. I want to say there's a lot of brown, but it's and a lot of like dull sort of colors. But from how they stood out and the themes of games, though, like we're just talking about box colors and the artwork of the games, but some of these themes as well. The theme of Carcassonne's theme is we're building a French countryside. That's its theme. Like, what are you doing? We're building a French countryside. You go, what's Dominion's theme? Dominion's theme is you need to create the best medieval town. Like, the most efficient medieval town, right? These games don't sound that exciting when you just lay out when you describe the theme. Like, Terraforming Mars is one of those games where you go, well, what are we doing? Well, we're terraforming Mars by doing a bunch of projects.
It's in the title.
It's in the title, right? Easy. And so for a lot of people...
We're passing the pigs. That's why it's called Pass the Pigs.
Like, a lot of these themes, unless you actually like the look of the box and what that theme may be kind of appeal, you may miss it completely.
But one of the things... and. Like if we connect this to the next topic, right, which is those big box games or those games which piggyback off known entities already, right?
Yeah.
Then you've got the issue of, well, do those games firstly live up to the gameplay experience of lesser themed games? I don't mean lesser themes that they don't have great themes in themselves, but that they aren't as grabbing as. Let's go and play as Marvel superheroes, right? Cool, let's go and do that. Everyone has a bit of a backstory right there. No one really has French hillsides in their mind when they decide they want to go and play a board game, right? Maybe there are a couple of people, French people.
You haven't been to Berry?
Don't knock Berry.
You couldn't help yourself, could you?
It's got a great donut shop, mate.
Do those known entities actually then live up to their theme in the gameplay mechanics? Or do they? And I know this is something that you want to talk about, Ralph.
I think it depends on the game. Like, I think you're referencing like Marvel Champions or something. Like
everything.
Like it's got it's Marvel. That's a huge franchise, doesn't live up to the hype. There's a lot of different Marvel games. Some do and some don't. And it's all personal preference, really.
Not just the Marvel games. Like, there's a whole range of Disney branded games, from kids games through to adult games now as well.
We've already talked about one today. Slay the Spire is a known entity before it even hit the board game shelf, right?
That's difficult, though, because that's a video game that comes into board game.
But it's still known, and that's what part of the reason that because people love Slay the Spire, and there is a lot of crossover between the video game and board gaming community.
I think if you're a fan of the video game, you're going to be a fan of the board.
But that's an interesting point in that it's probably a rare thing to have crossovers between different genres and they still live up to the hype, right? There are a lot that fall down in those crossovers that just, that's not as great as I was expecting it.
I do think
what I mean?
one of my favorite. I agree with you as well.
I'm trying to think of an example. Sorry, I've got this most confused look on my face.
So one of the ones that I want to talk about is a Marvel one. So there's a game called Dice Throne, and Dice Throne is essentially started as a battle royale where you get to take these fantasy characters. There's like the base set is like the gunslinger and the samurai. Then there's like the pirate lady and the artificer, right? That was like, they do these in seasons where they release 8 characters in a season and they release 2 seasons worth of characters. It's a battle royale, bit of a deck builder, not a deck builder, but a deck upgrader, where you've got some cards, you're trying to upgrade your powers and you're doing Yahtzee rolls, push your luck, trying to do the best thing and kill your opponents with powers and such. Then, Kickstarter, I believe 18 months ago, they got the license to do Marvel. And they turned Dice Throne into Marvel Dice Throne, and they released in the initial Miles Morales, Scarlet Witch, Iron Man, and they basically pulled in Marvel characters to do a battle royale style game. I think I was like, damn it, had I not already bought some Dice Throne games, I would have immediately jumped on this Kickstarter. But I think with the theme, it is a bit of a double-edged sword, because the expectation of this is a Marvel product means that the game has some very, very, you have expectations going into that product. Like, I'm going to be playing a game where I get to play as my favorite superhero doing
And if he doesn't have the things that I know he can do, then I'm not going to enjoy that experience.
Well, look at it this way. Like, if the game's already good in being Dice Throne and you're already a big fan of Marvel, chances are you're probably going to like that particular board game.
Hopefully, yeah. I would hope so, yeah.
Like, I love movies. I really enjoy Batman movies, but I really like Superman. Batman versus Superman was shit. Like, it's not a perfect formula.
Sorry, after you, Blake.
No, but I think it's pretty clear that the tactic does work, whether it's for good or for bad. It does work. As we're saying with like Carcassonne and these sorts of games, they have to draw you in either on the box art and description on the back alone, or through words of people who've already played it. Which means the game has to stand up on its own merits for it to become popular and people to pick it up.
Especially back then, that was all word of mouth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, whereas games that take already established IPs and things like that, they don't necessarily need that. All it takes is for you to walk through the shop and go, I like Marvel.
Yeah, that's
I might pick that up.
And there's so many small games that do that.
The game, even if the game itself isn't great and people are, of course a bad game's going to get a bad rap and you might not pick it up. But in that initial instance, you might just go, oh, I just like that thing.
But I think that's where the juxtaposition is, right? Like, if you take something like Rick and Morty, which has a board game, which I would never buy because it looks like a Monopoly ripoff on the back of it. It's not Monopoly, it's its own game. But even from the look of it, you go, it's just a dice roll, move your piece around, there's some funny cards kind of thing. There doesn't look like an actual substantive game on the back of it.
Yeah.
But as you said, people will love that theme, will walk in, pick that game up, play it once, never play it again.
Well, I think
because there's nothing beyond the theme.
Yeah.
So Marvel is a bit of a different one. Dice Throne is slightly different because the game was already built and was a great game, and then it matched up to the IP and it brought in a new audience to that particular game.
Well, one of the ones that I think that Marvel did that I don't think they should have was Splendor. There's now Splendor Marvel. I'm like, Splendor is one of these...
Isn't that the thing you put in your coffee?
Yeah, it is. That's
in
well
board
done.
games.
Sorry.
Well done.
Don't applaud that.
Come on.
That's terrible. I'm really showing my age.
No, like but that was a game. So Splendor is a game about. It's literally one of the original engine building games. Basically, buy this card gives you a jewel, which means you can use that jewel to buy another card that requires these jewels as requirements. Take your pick and go. And now, just because they were like, well, everyone's doing Marvel, they have now Marvel Splendor. I don't think it needed a Marvel tie-in at all. But I have to say, it's now on shelves at Kmart and Target.
I'll tell you what, one game for me that really broke the barrier. I imagine we all love Love Letter, the card game.
Yeah.
That is just a fantastic, very snappy, very quick card game for 1 to 4 players. A couple of years ago, or this year, they came out with Star Wars Love Letter. And I'm thinking, that's just a IP rip-off, whatever. My brother really wanted it, so we bought it. Plays between 2 and 6 players. The cards are different. You now have 2 different teams. You have the good guys and the bad guys.
Yeah.
And the rest of the game is pretty much the same. But, like, for example, there's a monster in there. I think his name's Rancor.
The Rancor.
His ability, I think his card is a 5 or a 6. So it's pretty high because 8's the highest card. Whereas what it is, you start at 0. You just say the numbers out loud. You say 0, 1, 2, and if you had the card that says 2, you put it face up in front of you, you're eliminated from the game. So it's done the theme of Star Wars fantastically with the good and bad guys. It's refreshed Love Letter because there's different win objectives you can play with where the highest card doesn't win anymore. Lots of little things like that. So it can go the other way.
Yeah, it can do. And there is a game that I want, like, so, for example, The Resistance, which is one of the classic social deduction games, takes the werewolf formula and turns it into a thing. There's the Hail Hydra game.
Have you played that?
No, I haven't, but I've seen it.
I've played it once. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's really made you feel like Spider-Man, to do the IGN review. You feel like Spider-Man when you play as Spider-Man.
Yeah,
it's really good.
I've heard really good things about it. And I think, look, that's why I think as well, it's really interesting when you look at, for example, I look at my collection of games and I go, really, especially in the last 5 years, the artwork has skyrocketed in actually what they need to do to, like, and that's the thing. Isle of Cats took the simplistic approach. It took the whole, we're just going to be a simple white box with cats on the front.
I will say
it was eye-catching.
It does catch your eye. It stands out on the
so
shelf.
Simple, yeah.
But that's where my interest just stopped.
I think I agree with you. Like I think I said last episode, I'm a huge cat guy. I'm not hugely compelled, but the gameplay sounded interesting. One game that a friend bought me was Fleet the Dice game. It's a roll and write about fishing. Now, I enjoy fishing, but it's not something I set out to do on a personal level. But I tell you what, the game is there and it's fantastic. It's one of my favorite roll and writes.
Well, that leads into you did raise a topic you wanted to chat about, Ralph. Which I thought was really interesting, when the actual mechanism of the game disconnects you from the theme of that game. I'll let you take it from here, but this would be a really interesting topic to see how you can be very excited for a game, and then the actual gameplay itself, the game mechanisms, let you down. I'm assuming that's what you're kind of getting at there, yeah?
Yeah, sure. So I think it's, again, I'm going to get a lot of hate from the community here, but Seven Wonders. It's a card drafting game where effectively you're just trying to get the most points from it, but you're just passing cards to the other player. And I feel like in that game, they chose card drafting for it. I feel like they could have developed that game a little bit differently. But a game like Sushi Go, card drafting is the perfect mechanic for it because it feels like
You're at a sushi train.
The theme is tied into the mechanic.
Yeah.
And Seven Wonders for me just doesn't do that.
Yeah.
No, I think that's a fair enough criticism of Seven Wonders. I mean, Seven Wonders itself, again, is a it falls over because it, again, was designed in that mid-2000s period where they were really only just discovering mechanics that really worked for a game, and then the theme tended to be then tacked on after they figured out that there was a fun game here and what it may have been. And I think you're right, Ralph. Like, Sushi Go is one of the perfect examples of when you actually lay out your cards for your meal of the round. You actually see the sushi train behind it. Like, here's the plate on the thing, and you grabbed it, and you get to do that. I think that's so fantastic. I think that's one of those games, but I think just absolutely nails it. The one that you've written down here, which there's a bit of a disconnect, which is I want to chat about, is Space Base. We love Space Base.
Love it.
But Space Base is not about making a space base in any way. Like, it is literally
It's tacked on.
It is tacked.
Don't ruin this for me.
Yeah. No, but that's like Space Base.
No, you're right though. It's not.
It is literally a game about creating basically a slot machine, and you're just manipulating the odds of what is going to activate based on what are the cards.
You can make it about cocaine and hookers if you like.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can
Stop the podcast now. I'm going to jump on this.
In fact, forget the board game.
It's one of those games like Monopoly where you could put literally any theme you wanted on it. It couldn't be space based. You could have train game.
Yeah.
And now it's about trains.
Train based.
Space trade.
In literally anything you wanted on it.
Actually, I want to just, because I really like the comparison between a game that didn't work to a game that does, and there is a space game that I think does match its mechanic, which would be Space Trucker.
Galaxy Trucker.
Galaxy Trucker, that's the one.
Mm-hmm. That's fun. I played that this weekend,
Yeah,
actually.
I agree, because the pulling of the tiles.
Well, that's right, the junkyard feel to build your own spaceship.
Yeah.
Like,
It feels like a piece of shit. So.
yeah, that's right, it does.
It absolutely, yeah, 100%.
But you've got to be proud of your work.
We will
and
never.
then hope you survive in space. It matches the
Yeah,
theme
it
of
does.
what you're trying to get to.
And imagine if that game didn't have that mechanic to it.
Yeah.
That tile drawing, going through the junkyard and finding a good thing that works for
And
it.
Well, I'll imagine they just Black, I'm going to use it, but imagine that they just had like a marketplace, and we were all just like suburbia, and we're just going to the market to buy the things, and then you create it based on like.
Imagine it was just card drafting. It won't feel the same.
No, exactly. And even the title of the game, like it's not filled with grandeur, which these space epics usually are. It's Galaxy Trucker.
Just keep on trucking. You'll get there. You'll get through it.
Actually, right? Yeah, just keep on trucking.
Yeah.
Even in space, just keep on trucking.
So I played that this weekend with 3 new players. Right. My first round, I nailed it. I got like 16 credits, and everyone else blew up. The next 2 rounds, everyone else was fine, made it in, and I lost all my cash because my shit blew up the next 2 rounds.
I think that's like we're slowly coming towards the end though before we get to the final part. But like those disconnect stuff that we, it really does. Like some of these games, like like some mechanics lean towards other things. Like for example, Terraforming Mars and like even It's a Wonderful World is like resource cubes go up. Is that feeling of generating cubes to make more cubes to do stuff is very much a okay, we're in an economic sort of game. And that's one of those things where like it is very different to kind of go, well, this is an economic game. Well, what does that even mean when people go, well, the theme of this game is you're going to be an 18th century beer baron trying to do the train. It's like get to the point, man. Like what are we actually trying to do?
Get on with it. Yeah.
I will say I do dabble in print and play games on occasion. So these are games you can download online, play them for free pretty much with just some dice and a pencil. There's one called Utopia Engine. And I've played a lot of print and plays where you just roll dice and you get to do a theme. But with Utopia Engine, you dive into the theme so much, like you're kind of finding that component. You roll 2 dice. Oh shit, that didn't work out. Oh, that blew up. Oh no, and like all you're doing is rolling 2 dice and scribbling things out, but you forget you're doing that, and the theme entices you in because the mechanic of how it manipulates the dice rolling is just amazing.
It won one of the BGG's like print and play. They hold a yearly print and play contest where you have to basically on one A5 sheet of paper or something like that create a game that only uses 1 piece of paper or a print and play and 2 dice. That's it. I believe it won one of the BGG contests.
It literally takes like 40 to an hour to play. It's fantastic.
For completely free to go and download and play.
Yeah, it's Utopia Engine. Any like big board gamers out there, definitely give that one a go.
I actually do want to give it a go. I've heard about it. Yeah.
Well, before we do wrap up, we might just do a bit of a call out as well to our audience members. If you've got a game that you do think the mechanic matches your the style of the game, of the actual theme of the game, let us know if we haven't mentioned it. Or conversely, if you find that there is a mechanic that completely goes against the theme of the game that you're meant to be playing. Also, I'd love to hear your thoughts on all that stuff as well. We did have a bit of an extra bit here where we can talk about the different themes that we like. And the different games that matches those themes. I'm going to start off with Lords of Vegas, which I think both the theme of the game is awesome and also the way the game plays matches perfectly up with what you're trying to achieve. There's a gambling element, there's a push your luck element throughout the entire game. It goes hand in hand, it works really, really well. So that's a tick for me now that we've had this bit of a chat, but I'll pass it around the board.
100% better if you're actually using poker chips instead of the cash that they have as well. If you use poker chips in Lords of Vegas, it's just adds that
just
little
use poker chips with everything.
Yeah, I can't see why not. Oh, look, my favourite one obviously is like anything sci-fi related. So anything space related, I'm generally like, ooh, what's that? You know, a rocket going to Mars? Ooh, or like a space lion? Ooh, I'm like
Space
well,
lion.
yeah,
I know.
you know, space lion, peace cat, a peace turtle. As well as a space cat, peace turtle. Shout out to that podcast of the Twilight Imperium. But like for me, sci-fi stuff. So obviously, but also more so than just general sci-fi though, anything Star Wars related. There have been a few good Star Wars games out there, which anytime I'm like, I actually don't own enough. There's Outer Rim. There's the one-on-one Rebellion, which I wanna play.
And
So
put Love Letter Star Wars on your list too.
look with that glowing recommendation. So Star Wars is one that, or sci-fi for me.
I'm glad that Star Wars still has some valuable IP because the movies are turned to crap. Anyway, I won't get.
We don't talk about Episode 9.
The TV shows.
Rarely
are right,
eight.
The TV shows are doing okay. Andor's been
I can use the Force to heal you. So.
I don't think you can. Not with episodes 8 and 9. But
Qui-Gon's looking at you very judging.
All right, Blake, what about you? What's some of your favourite themes that you love?
Definitely, I mean, I've mentioned it a few times. I think people know what it is. I love trains. I love the big trains across
You're
the
a big
great
fan, aren't
western
you?
countryside.
Just out of curiosity, have you watched Bullet Train?
I haven't yet.
Oh,
I
dude,
haven't
watch
yet.
that movie and let me know what you think.
He's still watching his documentary on the 1851.
Yeah, so he's got a few years
No,
to go.
he's got one of those 24-hour live cams across Japan or something. Just, I'm in this train.
The Garn, the one-to-one, the Garn across Australia.
Which, by the way, I have watched those videos. So, like, not for 24 hours, but they're very relaxing.
But the one game that in particular that really I really liked when it came to its theme and how it played. I can't for the life of me remember that we played it at NebaCon. The one where you've got half the people are selling, half the people are buying.
Panic on Wall Street.
Panic on Wall Street. That's the one.
The classic, the asynchronous game.
Yelling the board game.
It feels
That's
like
what
you're
it
on
is.
Wall Street.
Yeah.
The panic of it.
I love the Panic on Wall Street because it's like at the end of you're buying stocks and you're selling stocks, and then we just roll these 4 dice and then just see where the stocks go. Oh God, I'm ruined. Oh yeah, I do love that one. Ralph, what about you? What's some of your favorites?
Yeah, so I'm really weird when it comes to board gaming because, like, in other media, like movies and things, I'm not really into sci-fi or fantasy, but I find board gaming wise, I'm really into it. And you know, Twilight Imperium has even opened me up to like reading sci-fi novels and things. So like, it's just crazy how board gaming in the last 10 years or so has shaped my interest. But just bouncing back to themes, like the board game viticulture is just like a very chill game where you're just making wine and you go through the process of wine. Yeah, so really love it when I see a theme done well.
There's the Italian in you coming out to
Yeah, I
play
think so.
right there,
Yeah, that's right.
There's some interesting stories around viticulture. Is that the one that you've sold
He moved
viticulture?
on, yeah.
I sold it to Tristan, who lives down in Jindabyne, and he's actually part of our Discord as well.
Yeah, it's I really like it. It's just a chill thing. It's not a serious game.
Any others that you wanted to throw in? There's a couple
To
in the
plug,
list. Back
so
around.
Black Rose Wars. It's a game where everyone's a mage and you just blow each other up. But the thing is, when you're dead, you just go back to your starting spot and you can kill me back. And yeah,
kill
you
you
know,
if you want.
it's kind of like what we do in the shadows. It's like I'm going to eat you now, like that sort of thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's just fun being witches and blasting spells at each other and things. Yeah.
Anything else on your list, Train
Definitely Dead Reckoning.
Yeah.
I love that. Pirate theme's another
You
one of
stole
those.
my pirate theme. I was going to say pirates as
I don't.
well.
Yeah, I don't know if it's.
You can steal it as well.
I don't know
No,
if
I
it's.
can't.
I just
You can
like the
pirate
old
it.
style. Trains, Wild West, pirates. This sort of. It's past. I mean, I'm a big history buff, so I don't know if that plays into it at all. But
that certainly
Dead-
is one that matches its theme. Like the gameplay is very pirate.
definitely, and that big pirate ship in the middle of the at the top of the board. That's just icing on the cake.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me as well, for pirates, I love games like Dead Reckoning, Treasure Island, things that have that piratey theme. I really want to play Merchants and Marauders. I really love that idea. I mean, any sort of racing actual games like Flamme Rouge, Formula D. There's the new one, which is Pedal to the Metal, which is made by the same guys who made Flamme Rouge. I really want to give that a go. But also, the other ones that I really like, I kind of get really drawn into is like anything that has espionage/spies. I love like Coup and those kind of like Decrypto, those kind of like vintage 1980s spy kind of thrillers. But also anytime this is the real nerd in me, but anytime I hear some sort of like economic sort of like 18th century or 19th century like England during the Industrial Revolution. I'm just like, oh man, I kind of just really like the theme. That's why I keep going. Like, it's the dudes in top hats with the monocle. And it's like, it's so nerdy, but I'm like, it just tickles my brain. I'm like, I really want to play that game. I really want. I don't know what it is. Dude, he's wearing a monocle and a top hat.
Are you trying to tell us that we need to buy you a waistcoat? Is that really all it is?
Yes.
We'll do it if it shuts you up.
It won't shut me up, but I wouldn't mind a waistcoat.
The last one I had on my list was Tortuga, which is obviously just a little box game. It's not though. It's privateering. There's no pirates really. It's
Captain Jack Sparrow. Would disagree with you.
I mean, all right, there is.
It's the French, English, and the Dutch.
That's right. There is pirates, but it's not pirate like Dead Reckoning is. But once again, for a simple little game, you get into that theme very, very well, and the gameplay doesn't let you down, I think.
I just want to do a shout out. I watched the No Rolls Barred playthrough of Western Legends recently, and I just can't wait to play this game now. It is just a cowboy Western sandbox game. It's like, okay, well, if you want to be the guy that robs the bank and steals a horse, you can do that. And I'm like, I'm gonna cash in on the bounty on you because you did all the bad things and things like that. And you can gamble. Like, it's just a fun little sandboxy game. And it looks fantastic.
Saw that in Game Traders. I should have bought it.
It looks great. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think that draws our episode to a close. Unless anyone else has got anything they wanted to add in.
I just want to give a quick shout out to our community. I just want to say thank you to the people who currently listen to our podcast on a regular basis. We do actually have a really kind of close-knit following, which is really good. I'd also like to invite you, if you're listening to this podcast, to go to our Facebook group, Discord, and our YouTube channel, all of which you can find links to on our website, which is www.boardgamegateway.com. We really would love to see you in those communities because we're trying to grow them up. And we have some good discussions and stuff going on at the moment in Discord. Facebook has got the memes are flowing, which is quite nice. And YouTube, we're actually posting up a lot more stuff. So Ralph, we just posted our playthrough of Horrified before we played episode 15. Except, Ralph, we've also got your playthrough of Blood on the Clock Tower coming out as well.
Yeah, so this is an exciting one actually because I actually play a interesting minion. So you're going to see how I react under pressure as being part of the very small evil team. So I hope you'll enjoy that one.
Yeah, so that was
Awesome.
Ralph just played it and he just put it on the channel. I'm like, oh my god, I cannot. And I just watched it one day. I'm like, this is so cool. So
Terrific.
Go check out our YouTube channel. You actually search at BG Gateway. With now YouTube has handles that you can search for. So
do we have an ability for our followers to actually give us feedback as to what they'd like to hear? Were we interested to hear their suggestions for topics?
Definitely.
And things?
Absolutely, they can give us suggestions for topics on our Discord server, on our Facebook. You can also leave us reviews on the iTunes app, the iTunes podcast app. Any of those, we would recommend probably Facebook and Discord for your suggestions. But we'd love to hear more suggestions from the people out there. I mean, I'm sure
definitely, and constructive feedback is always welcome, good or bad. So definitely, put a post out, post a meme, just subtly tell us.
Yeah, why not?
Let us work it out.
we are closing in on the end of season 1, gentlemen. I will say we did set ourselves a milestone of episode 20 as being the end of season 1. We're not going to stop recording, but we are closing in on that first major milestone. So I'm really
do
proud.
We need a season finale?
Oh,
that could be fun.
We're going to have to have a Christmas episode. Is that what we're going to do?
I do think episode 20 is going to be where we release our top 10 gateway games for the Board Game Gateway.
Our official list.
Our official list is going to be in episode 20.
It's our spilty job.
And we've already roped in a special guest to help us with that episode.
Oh, have we? Looking forward to seeing them when they show up.
Do I spell more fireball shots?
I can't see why not.
I don't know why we haven't come back to that. We should be doing that all the time.
Why not?
But anyway, well, that draws us to a close. So thank you, gentlemen. We'll let you. We didn't. No one gave any mascot or any themes of their own this week. Do we want to throw one out right at the end? Do you have a motto? Do you have a saying that you could throw in with the theme?
It's your job, isn't it, as host?
No, I gave a couple scattered throughout.
I started saying this saying recently. It's the perfect weather for board games because no matter rain, hail, or shine, perfect weather.
That's the perfect ending for this podcast.
That's so soft. You just don't want to say anything else. That's all. You just don't want to be put under pressure for your own
fine.
thing.
Fine, I gotta go kick my dog off my couch. Bye.
7 Wonders is shit.
Tune in next week for more of this hilarious bit.
Bye, everyone.
Get off the dang couch!
to text in with the welfare of the